I just feel like because I volunteered for this, and maybe this was supposed to be a part of my story all along, because I kind of believe that you choose what your role is going to be in this world before you even come into this lifetime. So I kind of think that this is supposed to be what I do with my life, is to help people connect with God. And yes, it's an orb phenomenon, but as we discussed, it's way much more than that. So the orb phenomenon is really what pulls people in. But then the work with God is on like a much deeper and enriching level.
Kory,
Hi.
what's going on, bud?
Not much, bud. How you doing?
Hey, bud. I feel like you might be half Canadian.
I might be. I mean, I'm from Massachusetts. That's close enough, right?
Right on. So how's it going?
Everything's going really, really well. I'm just in a beautiful chapter of my life. I have the best friends in the world, going through an incredible spiritual journey, as you are, and a lot of other people I know. So no complaints right now. I'm really happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what this is all about. You know, there's an aspect of this that was kind of born when we were sitting in Robert Monroe's living room.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that conversation, but we were talking about your YouTube channel, and this thing has been building for me for a long time. I thought I'd be doing it with Zeke. Zeke, where you at?
Hi,
Come on,
Zeke.
bud. But oh well.
Mm-hmm. I remember that conversation because I remember you saying like you feel this pull to do something like this, and you're like, I think it's gonna be a podcast. And I remember hyping you up and just like telling you all of these really positive things. But I think there was a moment where you almost like flipped it and reversed it on me, and you were like, okay, so like
Yeah.
when are you gonna do your YouTube stuff?
Yeah, that's
I was
right.
like, okay, yeah, I should get on that.
And look what happened.
I know. Yeah.
Both things manifested.
And sometimes you just need a little push from your friends and spirit, and you'll get there.
Yeah. And also for me, it was a lot of getting over self-doubts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you talked about that too,
Yeah.
like the idea of putting the camera on yourself.
Yeah, you open yourself up to criticism. Like I've always had really, really bad social anxiety. And I think if like my younger self or even myself a few years ago saw like what I was doing now with this, like, speaking so publicly about these things, going on these podcasts and like making YouTube videos, I wouldn't even recognize myself because it would make me like ill to even think about like public speaking, or putting myself out there in any way. But I've just learned that through, I don't know, it's just connecting with this higher power just gives me a new level of confidence. And like, I know that I'm on a positive spiritual path, and it takes away a lot of the nerves. And it's kind of like, oh, well, if I'm going to be criticized, I'm going to be criticized, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of just got to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
I had that. So I just finished editing the first episode, which was with my friend Angie. And I'm definitely not used to being on camera or hearing my voice. And that was, it was difficult to listen back to.
Yeah, I relate to that.
But I definitely realized how Canadian I am. Like, I need my American friends to teach me how to say about.
About.
Not a boot.
A boot.
Yeah.
That's too funny. You'll get it.
Yeah. And it just, first episode released today. And by the way, happy 11/11.
Yeah. Happy 11/11 to you. It's a great day.
It is. Yeah. So I want to know, I just want to go over things from the beginning for you. Kind of those times in your life that you recognize as being like, significant to your personal spiritual growth?
Yeah, I mean, I could go pretty far back, to even like my childhood and early adulthood. Um, I remember being a little kid, like 5 years old, and going to church with my family. And we weren't like hyper religious or anything. And I had like pretty fond memories of going to church. Everybody was very nice. I got to play with the other kids and they would do activities with us. But there was just like something I wasn't clicking with when it came to like organized religion. And I'm pretty sure we went to like a Lutheran church, which, as far as I'm aware, that's one of the more like chill kind of, right. So there wasn't even anything that was going on that was really pushing me away from like God or Jesus or organized religion, but there was just something in my head that I didn't click with. And that's weird for like a 5-year-old. Usually you just kind of go along with whatever your parents say, right? Especially on such a like a spiritual level. You don't know any different. And my whole life I had just like really pushed away the idea of like a God. Um or Jesus or a holy mother. And I never really understood why, but throughout my childhood, into my teens and early adulthood, all of these paranormal things would be happening around me. I would have like things that you could attribute to ghostly type experiences, things moving around, lights turning on and off, and it would follow me wherever I went. And, not only that, but, like, these moments of clairvoyance or, like, something psychically would come into my mind. Sometimes I here and there, it was not often, but here and there, I felt I would receive messages from the other side, and I would tell people, and they would say that I hit the nail on the head, but, like, I didn't feel like I was in control of this stuff, and it would just happen here and there. It would happen often enough to keep me interested of like, okay, something is going on here. But I was just very resistant to the idea of God. And it wasn't until I was like 30 years old, so within the last couple years, that I found Chris Bledsoe's story. And I just am not sure what exactly it was about his story. I think it was like the idea of maybe science and spirituality coming together. Science being like what we looked at as UFOs and what we label as aliens and extraterrestrials, things that like we have proof of and governments all around the world have proof of. They're just reluctant to share it. And then that connection to, well, this actually could be spirituality. And it made sense in my head of like why I didn't connect with organized religion my whole life. Because if I had, then I wouldn't have been so open to this concept, right? I would have been in a very rigid structure of, I mean, hyper religious people are very reluctant to open up to the idea of other things because this is what their belief system has been their whole life. So that's kind of like in a nutshell, um, just the bullet points of what I've kind of gone through. And now I'm at the point where like I've built my own spirituality that enriches my life, like I did recently start reading the Bible. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be like the end all be all for me, but I'm trying to open myself up to different things spiritually and the idea of Jesus and of course like the Holy Mother and God. And I've also learned that in the last year and a half, 2 years of praying to God and showing gratitude, that like the most unbelievable things have happened in my life. Whereas before, if like something bad would happen, I'd be like, well, I don't believe in a God. But if there is a God, like God doesn't love me because all these bad things are happening. But like when you find a level of spirituality that works for you, like the most amazing things will happen. And I know that you know that, but
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's like, it's because you are receiving it firsthand. You're having personal spiritual experience. You're drawn to pick up the Bible and read it because it's what you want to do. You're not receiving it secondhand. Right. And
Hmm.
I think that's like a complaint for me is that so many people receive spirituality secondhand and they refuse to have firsthand experiences.
Hmm.
And that's when we got to know each other more at the Monroe Institute. That's what I was struck by, was how you, I don't know, like we'll obviously talk about your YouTube channel, but for me, hearing your story, it's like you've had this firsthand, like an experience or a set of experiences that helped directionalize you in a path that you could say is maybe more spiritually aligned. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's fair to say. And you're essentially now sharing that with other people and saying, hey, you can open up to something more. And you're not saying specifically what, like, do this, do that, but just open your heart and be willing to receive and see what happens.
Yeah, that's the biggest piece is, like you said, just opening your heart and the willingness to receive. That's when you'll be guided. And it just becomes so obvious at certain points of like where you're being guided to, like I'll share this story. I think I shared it with you in a video chat not long ago, but I've been having this feeling for a while to like, maybe I should get a Bible and start reading it. And it wasn't until my husband said something to me about like, hey, I really want to reconnect with my spirituality, which was like crazy to me because he had been very resistant to a lot of the stuff that I was going through. I mean, he was supportive, but he was a supportive listener, but he didn't want to really add in his own opinion or partake in anything. So to hear him like really put that step forward to say like I want to reconnect with my spirituality, maybe we should go buy a couple Bibles. I thought, oh, that's great. So one Sunday, a couple months ago, we went to the bookstore and there's like 2 or 3 aisles of Bibles. There's so many Bibles, so many different like editions and versions, and I'm like, I don't even know where to begin with this. So we're looking at the different Bibles, and on the cover of one of them, it said mustard seed. And I looked at my husband and I said, I've heard that term before. Do you have any idea what that means and like what it has to do with the Bible? And he said, I have no clue. So we just agreed to look it up later and figure out what mustard seed meant. Literally 2 or 3 minutes later, I pick up a different Bible and it's really pretty. It's got some like flowers on the cover. So I said, okay, I think this is going to be my Bible. So I closed my eyes and I run my thumb along the pages and I said, Lord, send me a message. And when I opened it up to a random page, I looked straight down at the parable of the mustard seed. And it told me exactly right there the significance of the mustard seed. And it felt like we were like in tears standing in the aisle, just being like, you can't make this stuff up. So like once you just open your heart and your mind, it becomes obvious when God reaches out to you in these moments, and then you'll feel confident, like, okay, I'm definitely on the right path right now.
Yeah. And those types of experiences are amazing, but you also need to open up to that. Like that's something I wish people did more, is open up to recognizing the synchronicities in their life and the fact that the universe is communicating with you. And the more, this is my personal experience, and that's why this is called the 1111 HQ podcast, is because I've had a number of these experiences over and over again. The wildest type of synchronicities that I was encouraged to start paying attention to. And then when I did, it's like this path opens up.
Hmm.
And that example, you're right. What are the chances of that flipping through? And that parable too is really important, like the significance of that, this
Hmm.
idea that the mustard seed in a lot of ways represents our faith. So the mustard seed is the smallest of seeds, right? Like that's the idea, is you just have this little seed of faith within you, but as you open up, it grows into something huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
that's
chills right now talking about that.
it's
It
amazing.
yeah, it was a really beautiful thing, and, I think that the reason that you and I want to put ourselves out there in this way is to help people take that little mustard seed and just nourish it and see what it grows into.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's a lot of, there's so much confusion and so much fear in this world. And I feel so blessed that from a young age, I opened up at a young age, I guess is the easiest way to put it. And, I am by no means some sort of perfect person. I have lots of challenges daily, but it created something foundational in me, something to really build upon. And that's kind of what I want to share. And the idea is to help, hopefully, reduce some suffering, at least unnecessary suffering, and to maybe help reduce some confusion as well. Like, why not share what you've learned?
Yeah, yeah. The confusion and fear, unfortunately, is really common nowadays, and it's really tough to know, like, for people to know what to believe. And
Hmm.
my biggest piece of advice is just to explore it yourself. Like, if you have the intention of connecting with God, like, why are you so fearful that something bad is going to happen? Like, only good things should be happening. So just embrace that and see where this road takes you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I know we're going to talk about orbs, but it just makes me think like that's kind of beside the point. That phenomenon is to lead you somewhere, right? It's what you do with it, and you cannot pay attention to it. And it's really, well, I don't know if I should be surprised or not, but just the extent to which people have no idea what's going on,
Yeah.
right? Like it's right there, but no
Yeah.
one's paying attention.
And they're all around you. It's like what you said, that it's really amazing and incredible to see the orbs. It's like a feeling that you just like never get over when you experience it and you realize like you're connecting with something that's just like so much higher than you, and that it's willing, not only willing, but enjoys communicating back with you. That is a beautiful aspect of this spiritual journey. But what people need to understand is that they're around you literally all the time. Like, we have these angelic beings near us constantly. Do you think it was just me that opened the page of the Bible, or do you think that there was a little angel next to me tapping on my shoulder, letting me know what page to open to? Like, you have to realize that these synchronicities and stuff that happen, they're being orchestrated by something that's very close to you. And so when you realize that and you realize like you are divinely protected and they're always with you. Like, I made a video about it on my YouTube, but I have had like one profound mushroom trip. Um and in that trip, these 13 angels came to me and they told me that we are never alone. Not one of us is alone. Um And it kind of showed me that, like, whether you are super spiritual or whether you're atheist, you are still always going to have these spiritual beings around you. I think that maybe there were some times in my life, and I'm sure other people can relate, like when you're going through a bad time, like you're just down bad, you have this bad energy around you. It can attract other negative energy. But the moment that you trust and lean in to God and the positive aspects of this spiritual journey that we're on, it just brings all of that positive vibes back to you. So like you really are in complete control of like the energy around you. So people should focus on that. It's like when
Hmm.
you have a bad day or like if you interact with somebody with bad energy, like you can carry that with you
Right.
like a lot, or you can try to set it free and then you feel better. So you're totally in control of the world around you.
Yeah. Um, can you talk about any of, in your younger years, maybe like the struggles or um, maybe just like I don't want to say negative vibe, but this is something I remember you talking about before is like you feel like you were going this way and you had this shift. And you don't have to get in, I mean, to specifics, but just anything you're
Mhm.
willing to share.
Yeah, there's been chapters in my life that were really dark and difficult that, a lot of people go through these chapters. Um, I've always been just like a really depressed person. Like, when I was a teenager, I had a lot of depression issues. And then into my early adulthood, and then I joined the Navy, which was equally a beautiful and just like really difficult experience, being in the military and deploying. And, um, there was a point in my life where I was in the Navy working just really grueling shifts. And it was a lot harder than it needed to be because we weren't on deployment at that time, but we were working like we were on deployment, like 12 hours on, 12 hours off, working until 3 or 4 in the morning, and having no days off. It was just really miserable at that point. I was also in just like a really bad relationship that just centered around a lot of toxicity and alcohol and, just all the things that are bad. And I was living in a bad neighborhood, and my house had been broken into and I had been robbed. And on top of that, the house that we were living in was haunted. Like, I just felt like I was being hit from all of these different areas, physically, mentally, spiritually. And that was a really difficult time. And I noticed, of course, looking back now, hindsight 2020, that like there was just so much bad energy around me and it was attracting really, really bad things into my life. There were times where I had sleep paralysis and I would see like these shadow figures. And, there would be some scary things that would happen in that house that were happening to me and not so much my boyfriend at the time. I don't know if that's just because I am more open to this stuff or the veil is thin around me or, how that can be with some people. But now, fast forwarding some time and getting rid of all those negative things, getting rid of the relationship, the house, getting out of the Navy, and finding myself on this spiritual path, I realize like it's such a night and day difference that when you open yourself up to God, like I feel, of course, I have bad days. Of course, like sometimes I hit a bump in the road. There are challenges in my life at times. And there are things that I go through that are really hard. But when you have a relationship with God, it's just so different when you face
Hmm.
these challenges.
Hmm.
And you don't feel like you have this negative energy or entities or whatever was going on attaching to you. You feel like impenetrable, and when you are going through a tough time, you just pray, God, I trust this is a part of the plan, and can you just please guide me to somewhere better, or tell God like this is my best case scenario of like how this could turn out for me. Or even, God, can you send me messages in my dreams and let me know just something. And time again, God will pull through for you. I went through something tough recently that I won't get into details with, but I went through something difficult, and I just felt like devastated. I'm like, I'm just batting 1,000 here and just dealing with this problem that'll never go away. And I prayed to God and I was like, "Can you please send me a message?" And I had the most vivid dream that night that my house was on fire and I was watching it go up in flames. And long story short, the fire department showed up at the end and the fire went out in an instant. And when I went inside, there was no damage at all to my house. And so I woke up the next morning being like, okay, I think God's telling me that it seems like the world is ending for me right now, right? Right? Like this is the worst case scenario. My house is burning to the ground, but it's just an illusion because everything is going to work out just fine. And within the matter of days, everything worked out just fine
Mm,
and even more perfectly than I had ever imagined. So, for anybody listening, like build that relationship and that trust with God and know that like even in your difficult times, you can still kind of like phone a friend or send out a lifeline, so to speak, and say, like, please communicate with me. Let me know, like, help me, throw me a bone here. And as long as you don't blame God for your problems, then like he'll pull you out of your difficult situations.
right. Yeah. What you said there is hugely important for people to realize is this idea of opening up the human end of the channel of the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, it seems, are not willing to do that. But if you do, something really happens. It might not happen immediately. You might feel like nothing, nothing's going on, but just have some trust, some faith trust, and give it
Mm-hmm.
time and see what can happen. I actually, um, I got to take part in this thing called the Progress Project, and it was essentially you get together with three people, so they call it a triad, and I was matched up with two people I didn't know. But the idea is that you get together regularly. We were getting together once a month for an hour and a half, and you discuss your spiritual goals. You set some time to connect with God. And it's this sharing thing that happens, but you keep it up, right? You do it each month. And it's so hard to put into words what happens, but you just feel like this opening. And it's not like everything in your life gets better. You still have challenges, but something real just happens within you. And it's amazing to experience with a group of people.
That's so cool. And like you said, not even a lot of effort. It's just once a month and you're getting together with a few people for an hour and a half and putting that intention out there. And if that's all people can do is just put in a little bit of effort for their own spiritual journey, that eventually it'll inspire you to put in more effort and then you'll be doing it every single day. You'll be doing your own spiritual practices like praying and stuff like that. So that's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah. Cause it's not natural for me. Like for whatever reason, I find it difficult to just set that time aside and pray. So having a group and knowing that we're going to get together at this future time set some accountability. And that helped me have then a daily practice. And that's led into, whatever this is, right? I don't think this happens without that. Um, yeah, it was just such an amazing thing to take part of. And I wish people would be a little more
Yeah.
willing to open themselves up to that conversation.
Yeah, think about the
Um,
change in the world that would happen if people
right,
connected more that way. Just connected with not only each other, which I think is important, that so many of us are caught up in the digital world and TikTok and social media and our jobs that we just don't connect with one another. So on a person to person level, that's beneficial, but on a spiritual level, obviously, super beneficial too.
yeah. There's so many distractions, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So when did you find out about Chris Bledsoe, or like did you get the book first, UFO of God?
First, we had just moved. My husband and I had just started this new chapter of our lives, which was, I just think the timing of everything was perfect, right? Like we had gone through a difficult time we both got out of the Navy, and then we moved to Texas for a few years. And Texas was a big struggle. It was difficult for us to basically establish a foundation for ourselves there. It was hard to make money.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really, really difficult but necessary phase of our lives because it just made us stronger. But at a certain point, my husband is like, I don't want to join the Navy again because it was just a really toxic place to be. But he's like, let me join the Coast Guard because he loves working on planes, he loves the ocean, he loves the military. So he's like, we're all right, I'm gonna join and we'll see where we move to. So we just happened to move to Clearwater, Florida. And like right when I moved to Clearwater, I saw an interview on YouTube, which was really out of the ordinary for our YouTube algorithm, but it was Ryan Bledsoe's interview on Danny Jones. And he kept saying like, oh, well, my father talked about this when he was on your show, and my dad mentioned this. And so I ended up just pausing it like an hour in. I'm like, I gotta go watch his dad's episode. And so I watched Chris's episode, and yeah, something just clicked in me. And not only that, but it was so weird because they had skywatched at Indian Rocks Beach, which was literally like a stone's throw away. And then come to find out that Emily Bledsoe, Chris's daughter, had moved to Clearwater like literally a few weeks before I did. And so I just was like, okay, this is interesting. I don't think I found out about Emily until a while later, but like looking back at it now, I'm kind of connecting all the dots and being like, okay, so there was a reason that we moved here. And I saw the interview at the time that I did right after we moved. So that was like fall, maybe like September, October of 2024. So I saw the interview and something clicked in me and I'm like, I got to read this guy's book. And so I got Chris's book and I read it shortly after, and it just like absolutely changed my life. And he tells a story, of course, which is incredible. And he said that it only contains like 10% of the story. So I'm excited for him to write another book soon enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like one of the biggest takeaways was that he said, just pray. And so that's when I started to pray. And it was like so awkward at first. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like starting up a conversation with like a stranger. I'm like, hey, God, it's me. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I think that maybe I should just say the things that I'm grateful for. And that's just what I started doing every day because I almost felt like, why, like, how can I pray and ask God for stuff when I like haven't even worked on a relationship with God? So I just started with gratitudes. And for anybody listening, like, I swear up and down, that's life changing, is just showing God gratitude. Sometimes I'll do it a few times a day if I'm just feeling, particularly emotional about something. I'll just sit in my feelings and I'll say a prayer and tell God just how grateful I am for like these blessings that I have. And the blessings just keep rolling in. And so um just in that little way, Chris has impacted my life like so immensely. I mean, he's really the reason why I reconnected with God or really connected with God in the first place for the first time in my life. So
Right.
he's responsible for that.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And it just makes me think, and again, you're speaking to like this idea that it feels unnatural at first, or there's this awkwardness. You're not sure what to say or do. And I think we all go through that to a certain extent. But to put it into a human context, this idea that God is this loving parent. And if you are a loving parent, why wouldn't you want to communicate with your children? In fact, that's all you'd want, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really fortunate because I grew up. My parents were readers of this book called the Urantia book, and I ended up when I was 12, just about to turn 13. I reached out to God because of fear. Like I was in this fear state and I needed something. And that was my reaction. Like, God, if you're real, you need to show me. And not even a month later, I got this book on my 13th birthday. And it ended up being my connection, like my tool for personal spiritual growth. And one of the things that it talks about in this book is this idea of the co-creative partnership with God. Like God is everywhere, but God is also in us.
Hmm.
God is not us. So we got to be careful about not
Yeah.
taking that too far. But the idea is that if we align ourselves with spiritual values and we desire this relationship and we want to grow, that God will lead us into all truth. And I just think that's such a beautiful concept. And not only is it a concept, but you can personally experience it. And it kind of starts with what you were saying there, just be willing to
Yeah.
reach out.
What you said actually made me think of a couple things I want to touch on. One of them, I just had this kind of epiphany right now. During that mushroom trip that I had mentioned earlier, I always tell people when I talk about it in my video, is that there was a point in my mushroom trip where I felt so close to God. I felt like I was sitting in like, a waiting room in God's office and he was like right there on the other side of the door. Or like I felt like I was on hold with God's secretary, like on the phone. And I felt so close to God. But what you just said about God being within all of us, it like made me realize right now is that that is always the case. The mushrooms didn't make that true. It just made me feel it on a different level. And that happened a year and a half ago, and I'm just now realizing what it actually means as I'm talking to you. So thank you for that.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so
amazing.
that's always the case. And I just felt it on a different level because of the mushrooms at the time. But yeah, always realize that you have this connection. And
Yeah.
another thing that you had said of like God is like a parent. I read something that really resonated with me in my own like personal life. And that was um, you know, God is a parent and if we're their child, like think about it. If you have a child that is just like not supportive and not kind and just complains and is never happy with what you give them, like why would you keep giving them things, right? But if you have a child that is loving and is always there for you, especially when they need you, or is grateful for everything you give them, don't you just want to overflow their cup with blessings? And that is like exactly how my life was. The first 30 years, I was just like so cynical and like, wow, God doesn't exist. And if he does, he hates me. And, all these bad things happen to me. And it's like, yeah, bad things are going to happen when that's literally all you focus on. But, after reading Chris's book and implementing gratitudes into my daily life, that's when, like, I swear, I mean, just the most incredible things were just manifest. It literally felt like, I'll give you an example. There was a time where my husband and I were like, man, it'd be really nice if we had like a little bit of extra money. Things are a little tight right now. The next morning, he's like, I just checked my bank account and we just got a large lump sum from the Coast Guard for like this reason and that reason. And we were not expecting that money at all. And so it's just like, things will manifest for you. It's not going to be like that every single time. So you definitely shouldn't have expectations, but like, when you show gratitude and when you're happy for what you have, and there will be moments where maybe you're struggling or you need a little helping hand and then it'll be like boom, it'll manifest
Mm,
for you like that. um
yeah.
so that's my bit of advice for anybody listening is try to focus on the positive even if you're going through a tough time and you're going through struggles. It is really easy to stress about and worry and focus on the bad things going on in your life, but like flip it and reverse it. Just try to focus on the good things and then see how that makes you feel on a personal level, but then see what manifests for you spiritually as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it makes me think that through service, we can be that helpful assistance to others, right? We can be that giving hand. Um, and another thing I thought while you were talking there is the idea that you said it's always there. You just don't realize it, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, reality is always there. Things exist outside of our framework. There's so much stuff we do not understand, but it's real. And it's really just our self limitations that hold us back. But again, if we're willing to open up to this, it's like this unfolding, right? Level after level. Um, yeah,
It's beautiful.
yeah, yeah. So you find out about the Bledsoes, and then like how does the next step in this kind of evolution for you, how does that happen?
So I read Chris's book, and I just kept having this almost like a little voice in my head telling me to go to the Azalea Fest that was going to be in April. So, I read Chris's book in like January, early January. And I was in the Bledsoe Said So Discord, his son's podcast. They have a Discord. And, I had been kind of like poking my head in, and I didn't really have any friends. I tried to like just say a couple things here or there. Probably wasn't making a good first impression. I usually don't. But um, I saw that they made an announcement about Azalea Fest. So I had this little voice in my head. It just kept saying, like, if you don't go now, then you'll miss this opportunity. Now, of course, fast forwarding to present day, there's been so many times where this little voice in my head has told me, like it's as if they're trying to keep me on track for this plan, right? So, like, if I didn't go, I can't even imagine how my life would be now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So let me just point
It's
out, you're now the moderator or a moderator in the
for the
Discord,
Discord community, yeah.
helping out at the tents at
Hmm.
Azalea and Riverfest. Like, so you're right, just following that inner voice. And then again, this like unfolding more, more,
Yeah.
more.
And you and I wouldn't know each other. We wouldn't have gone to Monroe with each other. Um, and just so, like, I think of all the friendships that I have, and just how like enriched my life has become just on a day-to-day basis. Like, I'm the happiest I've ever been. So to think, like, if I didn't listen to that little voice in my head, like how different my life would be, it's just crazy.
Mhm.
So I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends. Like I said, I didn't connect with anybody in the Discord at first. And I'm like, I'm just going to be that crazy person that goes by myself, no friends, nothing. But I said a prayer. I'll share a little story, but I said a prayer and I was like, God, just get me there safe. Please help me make friends and help me just meet Chris Bledsoe. And it's funny, like, I got all of that like on the first day, because even from the walk from my hotel to the tent where Chris was, I crossed paths with somebody. He's a good friend now, but his name is Chester. And I walked past him on the sidewalk and I looked at him and I'm like, there's just something telling me that he's an OME, which is what we call the people that are a part of this Discord, where homies that ohm. And I was like, "Are you here for Chris Bledsoe? This is just a total stranger." And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Me too. Do you want to walk to the tent together?" And then we were like this the whole rest of the weekend. We would walk each other to and from our hotel, and we were like a little buddy system. But yeah, that trip I met Chris, I met the Bledsoes, and I had a couple of really special, like remarkable moments personally. One of the nights that we were at the tent, it started to get dark, and Chris was like, in a few minutes, I can feel that they're going to come out. And we're at this festival where there's like, people walking around and drinking, and, there's a lot of festivities going on. And an orb just appears overhead, and it's my first time seeing one. I could probably share a story later just about looking back on my life. I think there was one time when I was 12 where I saw the orbs, but of course I didn't know that they were orbs until much later. But so this is really my first moment being like, I'm looking at an orb right now. And I point out an orb to Zeke, and I said, I think that's an orb. And it went and illuminated super bright. And then everybody was like, oh my God. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And like, I couldn't sleep that night. And I just felt like totally electrified. And then the next night we went to the beach, and the same thing happened again. I was standing there. It was so dark. I don't even know who I was talking to. To this day, I don't know who I was talking to. I was talking to a young guy, and I was like, that looks like one over there. And it just illuminated and it lit up everybody's faces. It was so bright. And I left that trip being like, what does it mean? Was it trying to communicate with me? And also going through the like, well, you're not special, don't think that you're special. Like I'm really struggling with this. Does it mean something, or is it insignificant? And I just had this obsession of, I got to go out and see if I can do this on my own. So a month later, my husband and I went camping at a dark sky park. So there's like no light pollution. And we stayed up all night. And around like 3 in the morning, we saw tons of orbs. And not only that, but they were responding to everything we were saying. Like, you know, even my husband was like, this is making me want to connect with God again. And then of course he like went back on his word after that. Cause like that's the human part of us, right? Of being like, I don't know what I saw. Like you forget everything that you went through in that moment. But my orb session didn't end there. My husband was like, I don't know if I want to go out and interact with this stuff, but you can go out on your own. So after that camping trip, I was like, okay, I'm going to go on my own camping trip by myself. So a month after that, this is only 2 months after meeting Chris. And like at this point, this is all I can think about. I feel like my brain chemistry and neural pathways were totally changed. And I went out on my own and I just said a prayer of like, you know, I don't talk about this a whole lot, but I did say a prayer about like, I will be a spiritual warrior if you need me to. I will help spread this message. And I essentially volunteered for this without even realizing what was going to happen in my life. And my first night there, I had a close encounter with a being inside of the tent that I was staying in. It was a fairly large tent. And after a night of skywatching, I was laying in bed and I heard these really loud sounds next to me. And so I sat up in bed and I turned, and there was like a rainbow vortex of light that was spinning next to the bed. And I just started yelling, like, what is this? Or what is that? What is that? And it turned, and these two piercing blue eyes, they was like radiating this beautiful like turquoise blue. It was so bright. And at that moment I realized like what I'm looking at is like a being. It's an entity of some kind. And I screamed and it disappeared, and then the next night I had another close encounter. It wasn't as close as next to my bed, but all night there was this giant white fiery orb that had been moving around the prairie, which is where I was staying. And at one point it beamed at me, and I felt this electricity go through my whole body that I've just never felt, even to this day again. And then when it went out and I couldn't see it anymore, I felt a message come through that said that you need to share this with people and you need to help them connect. You need to teach them how to connect. And yeah, I know that's my long-winded response to your question, but that was really like such a significant point in my life in a turning point of like, okay, so how do I go about this and how do I do this? And it's just been nothing but opening my heart and my mind and connecting with them and filming to try to show people, asking, and then getting a response and showing people this is as easy as it is. You just ask them, can you illuminate? Or can you illuminate for this person? You know, there's been times I've sent you videos where I've like, can you illuminate for Shane? And then there's always two that show up for you, like, you know, just like that. And I just feel like because I volunteered for this, and maybe this was supposed to be a part of my story all along, because I kind of believe that you choose what your role is going to be in this world before you even come into this lifetime, right? So I kind of think that this is supposed to be what I do with my life is to help people connect with God. And yes, it's an orb phenomenon, but as we discussed, it's way much more than that. So the orb phenomenon is really what pulls people in, I think. But then the work with God is on like a much deeper and enriching level.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the part that often gets lost in all of this, right? Because, yeah,
Mhm.
it is completely amazing that this is happening and you can see it. But takes it takes receiving it on the heart level to really get what is happening. And again, the fact that you made those personal choices, you heard the voice, the calling, whatever it is, you followed one step after another, and now you are in this position where you are helping others open up to this phenomenon. Yeah, I think it's just incredible. And really, um, you could feel that. I guess I got to know you a little bit through the Discord, but kind of superficially, right? Um, but got to hear your story. And then when we were hanging out at Monroe, it was just so palpable how you have these gifts and we all have these gifts, right? But you are using your gifts to the best of your ability to lead people into something that is good, that is true and beautiful and aligned with spiritual values. And, I was thinking about this in context of people who don't know what to think of it, which I'm sympathetic to. It it takes effort to really think about and consider what's happening and how it affects each of us, how it affects you. This idea that it's negative, you know, it's creating such positive change in people's lives. I mean, people who are literally suicidal have an experience that changes them,
Mhm.
opens them up to a spiritual path, makes life better. So it just strikes me that people should need to be very careful about calling something negative or even demonic. You hear people say this, and it's like, really?
It's silly.
Like, look what's happening to people's lives.
Yeah. It's really silly to me when people say that. Um, it's just their own fear that they're trying to push on me when they say things like that. Um, but it's just so silly because does anything demonic show up when you're literally praying to God? I would think that they're not powerful enough to do something like that. Do demons bring you literally constant blessings and visit you in your dreams and make you feel all warm and fuzzy? Like, you know, like even last night, I said a prayer and I asked God to, hey, can you send me a message about this? And I had a dream and the message came through for me, but in the symbolism that was also with a cross with a crown around it. Like there's just no way. There's no way that it's demonic and that for the last 2 years, I've been the happiest I've ever been and had the most incredible blessings and beautiful things that have happened to me. It's just silly, and people would see that if they open themselves up more to God. And being so close to God in my own life, I feel impenetrable to bad energy and to bad things because of my faith. When you have faith like that, you're going to be like, I mean, nothing negative can penetrate this faith.
Right.
So
And you're being led to God, to relationship with God. So to call it negative or demonic, it just makes no sense to me. You know, you have to look at it in terms of alignment to spiritual values as well. Love, truth, beauty, goodness, forgiveness, these beautiful, real concepts, right? And, Jesus said, you judge the tree by the fruit, right? Right? By your fruits you shall know them, or by their fruits you shall know them. Um, and so, yeah, I don't get it. I just,
people want to see like just all the negativity in the world. And people also quote the whole demons can masquerade as beings of light. Say to them again, do demons usually appear when you pray to God? Because that's just silly to me. Like, it doesn't make sense. And also, why are you only seeing demons? Don't you think that you would? I don't ever see demons. I only see angels, people. So it's like you see what you put out. So once you stop putting out negativity and once you stop focusing on demons, you're going to see the light. You're going to see God and, his beautiful beings. So that's just their own projection, and then you have the people that are just like I had somebody comment on a video recently, and I don't pay too much attention to the comments, but I do like to interact with the positive ones, and then some people have genuine questions, so I like to point them in the right direction when it comes to things like that. But I had a comment from someone recently that said like, you have a drone facility in your town. You need to stop doing mushrooms. And I was like, this person doesn't know where I live. I never said where I live. So this is just somebody who I don't even know if they're real, if they're a bot. There's just so many people that focus or they just throw something out there and hope it sticks, or they say these are satellites or I mean even some really loopy stuff I've gotten. People that are like um, sorry, these aren't angels or orbs. These are a network of artificial intelligence that connects on the basis of consciousness. And I'm like, okay, I thought I was the crazy one sometimes, but that sounds
yeah.
really crazy,
Well,
you know?
it speaks to self-imposed limitations. You know, there's nothing wrong with honest skepticism and
No,
not,
you need to have a healthy level of skepticism because it is awkward sometimes when people will maybe send me a video and be like, and maybe it's blinking in a pattern to where I'm like, that does look like it could be a satellite blinking, or it looks like it could be this. You have to suss out these things because
Mhm.
not everything is an orb. But just to write something off constantly is just ridiculous, and you're not opening yourself up to anything positive, in my opinion, when you do that.
Right. And the cynicism is just gross and really self-limiting.
Mhm.
It goes against this idea that we've been talking about, that it takes you opening up. It takes that personal work or that level of faith trust to be willing to open up to it. But if you want to just be closed-minded and cynical, then yeah, that's
That's
where
what
you'll
you're gonna
be.
get. Like, I truly believe in the law of attraction and, like, what you put out and what you embody is what you're gonna get back. So, you're just not gonna make any progress, um, internally in your heart, or your mind, and you're not gonna make any progress spiritually either if that's the kind of stuff you're putting out. And it's also very hard to convey to some people. Like, I can't make you feel my spiritual experience. There are some people out there who can feel that. I get a lot of nice comments of people that are like, your videos bring tears to my eyes and like, this connection you have is palpable. I can feel it. But then there are other people that are just so far removed and that aren't spiritual. And like, I can't make you feel my spiritual connection. You can feel your own if you go out. Like, that's all I want people to do. I don't care. You don't have to believe everything I say, but take that little mustard seed and go out and do it yourself and just see what happens. And you might honestly change your life. I mean, I'll bet money on it that
Oh
you will
yeah,
probably change your life doing that.
for
So,
sure. For sure. All right. We got to talk about,
Monroe.
we haven't even got to Monroe yet.
I know.
We could do 3 episodes on Monroe.
Oh my God. Monroe. Okay, for anybody listening, this was like one of my favorite parts. It was so funny seeing Shane come to terms with the fact that like he is more than his physical body and that he's got these like psychic clairvoyant things about him. Just like how many times I was like, we were in the meetings after the meditations and just seeing the look on your face, just that 1,000 yard stare of like, how do I come to grips with like what I just experienced? Um, and just to give one example, this is like one of my favorite stories ever. Our good friend Zeke. So, okay, let me set the stage. We're at the meeting. I'm sitting in a Shane and Zeke sandwich. I got Zeke on my left and Shane on my right. And um, the first person who shares how the last meditation went was Zeke. And he raised his hand and he said, I just envisioned myself on top of Robert's Mountain and just worked on my reball and extending it over the mountain and then over the whole world. And I was beckoning the world to come up to us and join us and help spread this love and peace. And I have you to my right. I swear to God, you went pale like a ghost and you turned your notebook toward me and you literally had written down Zeke on top of a mountain calling me up. And you weren't the only one. There was like four other Monroemies that also saw Zeke on top of the mountain, saw someone on top of the mountain, felt somebody pulling them up onto a mountain. And so seeing you really come to terms with like, holy smokes, something is going on here with me. That was so cool and so funny at the same time.
Yeah, it was wild. And I am so glad that we were all there to share that experience together because it was like the dial got cranked up to 11.
Hmm.
I've always known I've always known about intuition. Things have certainly happened. I've had premonitions before. It's just that going there, when I arrived at Monroe, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I've never been so sure of something. And I also did not have expectations other than maybe I thought I was going to um, have out of body experiences because I've had a lot of that prior to Monroe. So I just naturally assumed, okay, this is what I'm going to go experience. But then this other thing starts happening and immediately, and it's happening in these meditations where you're getting these insights and these pictures. Like I was getting images and sounds, and I know we all were. But yeah, it was absolutely mind blowing. And by the end of the week, like I was not even sharing a lot of the stuff that was happening because it was just, yeah, I honestly, I don't know how to articulate it, but I have this real sense of comfort knowing that we experienced that together. Like
Yeah,
it really felt like a family there.
I know. I wish I could go back. Like it felt like it was just the best week. I felt for a couple months after, I felt like a totally different person. And then, of course, we moved from Florida to North Carolina, and the stress of that brought me back to this human reality. But, I just felt like a totally different person for like 2 months after that experience. I felt Like I was moving at a different pace. I felt time was moving differently. I felt like way more patient and just like, whatever, nothing bothered me. And it was so beautiful and just so cool how we were all connected. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
just telling you, briefly prior to us starting this recording was that just the other night there was a group of us all like hanging out in a video chat, and I had shared a dream that I had about an orb. I was in the forest and I was with some people, and I didn't know everybody that I was with. Like I couldn't remember the faces of everybody that was there, but I knew that they were friends. And we're in the forest and this orb comes down. That's the short and skinny of it. Then Marco, who is a Monroe-me, and he went to Monroe with us, he had damn near the same dream. He was in a forest, he was with people, he can't remember who, he saw a big orb. And then Gabe, who was also at Monroe with us, he shared damn near the same experience as well. So even after leaving Monroe, I feel like there are these connections with all of us who had gone that we're quantum entangled or something, and it's incredible. Um, there was a meditation that I did where not only did I connect with you, but I connected with Marco. And what was funny is that you had heard me say something in one of your meditations. So for a couple of days, you were waiting to hear if I was going to say
Yeah.
what
Say
you
the thing.
heard.
Say the
Yeah.
thing.
And so I went into this meditation and I was like, okay, in this meditation, I just want to set the scene. And the scene is going to be I walk into a log cabin and I'm going to meet a light being. And then from that moment on, I'm not going to be in control anymore. So I walk into the cabin and I'm like, Shane, what are you doing sitting on this couch? And I sat on the couch next to you. And you looked at me and you said something super goofy. You looked at me, you said, ain't no thing but a chicken wing. And I was like, okay, maybe that's what I said to Shane. But for the audience, it was so crazy because that's not what I said to you in your meditation, but that was something that you had thought, right? Or something like that during
Yes.
your meditation.
Yeah, that's right. So, um, yeah, I was in one of my meditations and I heard you. Essentially, I was hearing you say a bunch of Letterkenny lines. But prior to that, and that's what stuck out, and that's what I journaled. Kory, yeah, I have it here in my journal, a few lines that you had said. And so I'm thinking like she's definitely and it was so clear, like crystal clear. I'm like, okay, she's definitely saying this at some point. I'm just waiting for it. But then, yeah, you said ain't no thing but a chicken wing. And earlier in my meditation, and this was subconscious, it was not in I didn't really remember this. I don't know, maybe 5 minutes in and nothing's happening yet. And I was having this kind of excitement for the things we had already experienced. And yeah, that popped into my mind. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing. And I kind of laughed about it, but it was like on to the next thought.
Right.
And then it took me time to actually realize, like, oh my God, like it made it so much more amazing, right?
And
Like
what
it would
a
have been,
bizarre thing. Like, it wasn't some profound message. It was just like a goofy little thing that
right.
I was like, what does this mean? But, it makes you wonder, like, did it happen because you thought it, or did it happen because you were existing somewhere else in my meditation? And it was very crazy quantum entanglement for sure.
Yeah. I like my sense of it is there's some element of it's pointing you in a way so you're not getting too dogmatic about it or you think you know what's going on. The way I look at it as well is there's this field of consciousness, right? We know consciousness is not in here. We've experienced that. The idea that your brain is more like an antenna and you're picking up signals. Now, whether there are agencies that are helping facilitate this and give you, that's definitely what I experienced. And some of the stuff I have not talked about yet from Monroe had to do with that. But as an example, one of the big first things that happened for me was remote viewing the control room. And so just to set this up for anyone listening, I'm in my meditation and I'm just seeing black. I'm basically just enjoying a little rest here for like 10, 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, into my vision, just kind of fuzzy. It was more like an impression. There's a man and a woman, or it's almost like I have the idea of a man and a woman, but behind them, I can see buttons and dials. And I audibly hear the man say, "Oh, I have to remember to," and then there's a pause, and I hear the word vehicle. And I asked, "Can I hear that again?" And it replayed. Literally see it, and I hear, "Oh, I have to remember to something, something about a vehicle." And it strikes me that asking, it implies that something was being given. At least that's my sense of it. And anyways, it turns out, right after that, I saw the image of a child's bike laying on its side, and I could see training wheels on it. And at that point, that's when the self-doubt kicked in. Maybe I'm just making this up. This is just my subconscious. This doesn't make any sense. But I wrote them down. Once the meditation was over, that's when it occurred to me, like, I wonder if this was Archie and Darren in the control room. And Archie and Darren were our trainers at Monroe. And so I got dressed real quick and I wanted to be the first person back to the meeting room to ask one of them if they were there before everyone else got there. And Archie was standing there, and I went up to him and I was like, "Archie, were you and Darren in the control room?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Did you say to her, 'Oh, I have to remember to do something involving a vehicle'?" And he looks at me. He goes, "Yeah, but you're not supposed to know about that." He goes, "You need to knock next time." And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Oh my God, like, I'm so sorry." And he, of course, laughs. He's like, "No, this happens here." Uh,
Which would explain why you didn't hear the full message because it wasn't something that you were supposed to be hearing at the
that's
time.
exactly. And that's what's so interesting. So, again, for anyone listening, the reason I didn't pick up the middle part is because Archie was saying to Darren, he said, "Oh, I have to remember to arrange Ryan Bledsoe's vehicle." So our Monroe event was facilitated by Ryan Bledsoe, and he was showing up on the last day as a surprise. This was not something I know you knew about it, but the rest of us did not. And it's so interesting that the surprise was kept. I got the information, but not the Ryan part. That's just so fascinating. And again, it implies, or it seems to imply, that there's an element of this is being given to us.
Yes. I think that maybe there were some beings behind the scenes that were just kind of turning the volume down on that one part and then back up again for you that are like, oh, we don't want to spoil the surprise. Um, and I think that adds an element of humor that people don't realize. God and these beings have this playfulness, this humor. They have a good sense of humor, and they weren't going to spoil the surprise for you.
Yeah, and that's the sense I got too. I think our group had a lot of success because of how connected we were, how connected and open and really inviting all of this. I don't know about you, but when I got home, there was a real sense of mourning, um, because we joked about it. It was like going to Hogwarts and all your abilities are just turned up through the roof. And then you go back to this generally secular materialist society, and even talking about these things, it being received skeptically, or you have to explain stuff. Where for all of us who went there, we just know it. We experienced it together. It was so amazing.
Yeah, it is like being at Hogwarts and then going home to like all of your Muggle friends and family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, you get the
No offense,
post.
muggles.
Yeah, I know. You definitely get the post Monroe blues. And I know from talking to a lot of the other Monroemies that they felt that too, and they still feel that. Like, I'm pretty sure each and every one of us has just kind of gotten roped back into our regular lives, which is fine and it's normal because you can't be like riding that high constantly. I mean, we would have to do like 5 or 6 meditations a day just to, just to tap into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I find that when I do work in some meditations, and even just some quiet time to myself without any distractions, that it does bring back a lot of those same feelings, that sense of peace. It helps me reconnect with myself,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of benefit to that. If there's anybody listening that is like, oh, I can't meditate, it's either too boring or I can't get my mind to stop, it's like that's okay. I felt the same way at first, and go outside, if it's a relaxing place. I know some people live in cities and maybe it's not so relaxing, but do your best to go outside and relax and just take 15 minutes without your phone. Just look up at the clouds, pay attention to the sounds you hear, and just try not to worry about like everything else in your life that's stressful for you. And that is just the best place that you can start with that.
Mhm.
And you'll see like just how beneficial that is for you in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And be willing to look into this stuff. Be curious. Ask questions. Don't be cynical. Yeah, so you also got to do Ryan's event, the Monroe event recently in North Carolina, which I'm leaving for in 2 days.
Yeah, that's
I
so
didn't,
exciting.
yeah, looking forward to it. And yeah, you were there. I'm just curious. I haven't heard yet how that was for you.
It was really, really great. During my week-long retreat with you guys, I clicked out a lot. And I had like 2 or 3 really profound meditations that were just like absolutely blew my mind. But most of the time I clicked out. So I wasn't asleep, but I just like wasn't conscious. And being able to do Ryan's like 2-day retreat, I got to do a couple of the same exercises that we had done previously. And then I was able to do a few new ones. And I found that like I didn't click out for any of them. There were some times where I kind of hovered. I could feel my brain waves really getting low with it, but I worked hard to keep myself um active enough and paying attention enough. And I felt, um I felt something new, like, I didn't go out of body, but I almost felt like my whole body went numb, like, I just wasn't really, like, either in it completely or aware of it, but I just felt this, like, swelling of consciousness expanding, and then, like, all of my awareness came to this one place, and I felt like it was hovering right above my head, so it didn't feel like I was fully out of body, but it felt like my consciousness was expanding and compressing at the same time. I don't know how to describe it. Compressing in the sense that my consciousness left my physical body and stayed like right above my head, but expanding to the point where like all of a sudden I felt like I had more room to play consciously, if that makes sense at all.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
um got to see just like a lot of cool symbolism. We did this one exercise um, where we would like ask questions and they were just like, questions. They could be like, what do I do next with my life? Or I asked a question like, how do I strengthen my connection with God? And then we see what kind of symbolism comes to us. And that one was really great for me because I just saw it almost felt like a guessing game of what the symbolism meant. And I'm still figuring out some of it, but I got a lot out of Ryan's retreat. that I think that my other headphone died. I'm sorry about that. Can you
Oh, no
still hear
worries.
me?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So I got a lot out of Ryan's retreat, and I think that being at Monroe for that 1 week really helped build that foundation for me so that I didn't click out as much. And, I was able to push myself a little further. So I think that you're going to get a lot out of it, definitely, when you go. It'll be a lot of fun for you.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. I guess my one curiosity is the difference between doing an event at Monroe in Virginia versus somewhere else, because the top of that mountain was just magical. It was a magical experience. I don't know any other way to put it. And I'm going in baseline, no expectations, the same thing I did originally. But man, like how we just kept commenting on it when we were there. We are sitting in Robert Monroe's living room, just
Yeah.
having the craziest experiences.
The energy there was unbelievable. I remember we kept playing around with the dowsing rods, and, for me, I had never done it before, but every time I picked them up, the dowsing rods were moving like crazy, and since coming home, I have my own dowsing rods now, and I can't get those things to move at all, and I'm like, I don't think it's not a me thing, it's just that there is so much palpable energy up on top of that mountain that it's just so easy to connect to these psi abilities and different
Hmm.
abilities. It's incredible. And on the Monroe Expand app, they have Robert's Mountain sounds that you can listen to. It's really nice. It's just like the birds chirping and it's so beautiful. So it kind of brings me back sometimes when I listen.
Yeah, me too. I've actually had a couple amazing experiences since being home with that, specifically the Robert Mountains part of the app. We haven't even talked about the orbs on top of the mountain. We got to say something about that because that was unbelievable.
It's really great. The weather was kind of hit or miss at times, where sometimes we would get some showers either during the day or at night. And we went out maybe once or twice to skywatch. And it's tough because you got to wake up early too. So you're up really late. You're pretty worn out from all of your meditations and the other exercises. So, it just was tough staying out really late skywatching, in my opinion. And there was one night where a group of us pushed through and, like, right before 11:11 PM, we had seen the orbs, and, it was a really great moment for me because I normally just skywatch solo, and, I was just really hoping, I'm like, "Just help me show them, like, just if you could, just please appear in the way that you normally do for me," because it's like a process where, um usually I'll get like a signal orb, which it would be one really bright orb, and then it's just like a show after that. And then they respond to like what I say, and I'm like, please just show them so that they know what to look for in the future. Because there were some people that had never seen orbs before. And yeah, I just felt so blessed, and it was so surreal because right before 11:11, I saw the signal orb, and I remember standing next to Mark, and he had never seen an orb before. So I was really happy that I was standing next to him when it happened, but we just saw this bright light appear, and I was like, "That is an orb. I know it." And we all focused on that one spot, and they came out like crazy after that. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, and you have a video on your channel of some of the stuff we saw. Yeah, for me, that whole experience was magical. The night before, we had also gone out and we didn't end up seeing anything. Again, like you said, the weather was not great that week. A lot of rain coming through at times and a lot of clouds. And so we went out the night before, and I don't know, to me, something just felt off. I don't know if you felt that too, just the energy or the intention. It was like, it just,
Mm-hmm. I know.
if it happens, it'll be great. But,
Yeah.
and then I went to bed that night and had this thought like, tomorrow it's going to work out and tomorrow it's going to be right. And I think we talked about it during the day that we need to be more heart-centered and really set our intention. And then when we did go out, we all got in a circle, held hands. I think Erica had said a little prayer and set an intention. And again, that night previous, I had this thought uh, that how amazing would it be if we saw something at 11:11? Like, that's my thing, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, so it was just like this personal desire that I had. And again, no expectation. And when we went out and after that circle, I was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I think we did that before 9 o'clock. Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember the timing? I'm pretty sure. So it felt like when you're waiting an hour, it feels like a long time.
And we were so close to wrapping it up too, because like I said, we
Right.
were tired and
Yeah.
we were waking up early and had an early day ahead of us. So we were all definitely a few minutes away.
Yeah.
And
Well, some people had left and some people were going to leave. And I said, just wait, like, just give it a couple more minutes.
yeah, and
And
we saw
man,
the remember the swirly boy?
oh yeah.
That was
Yes.
something I had never seen before. So for the audience, I do have a clip of this on that YouTube video. I have a compilation of a ton of the orb footage that we got, but we were watching the orbs. They were like just above the horizon behind the trees. So we were watching the orbs, and then maybe 50 yards away from us, this big, bright, flashing ball of light appears. And it was, first of all, too cold for fireflies. We hadn't seen not one firefly that whole week. I'm familiar with fireflies. Many of the people that went are familiar with what they look like. This was not a firefly. To me, this was probably the size of a basketball. And it did appear differently to other people, which is also an element of the phenomenon that's very common. So for me, it appeared as like a lime green, kind of yellowish green color. And it appeared and was just flickering like crazy. And it was doing all of these loops. And
Hmm.
it was flickering so fast that I don't even think like the frame rate of my camera caught it accurately. But it was so close to us. And like you can just hear in the video the excitement of everybody of being like, whoa, 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 what is that? And we're freaking out. And what my camera didn't catch was that some of us, I didn't, but I know like Cliff and some other people saw it literally go from in front of us to all the way to like the side and in the trees to our right. And it appeared as red and blue and white to some people. So, like, that's a firefly is not gonna do that. It's gonna be one color for everybody.
Yeah. And I have a validation on that too, because I think we were in, maybe it was one of the Wednesday night chats on Discord, and you were talking about Swirly Boy. And I was outside that night in my backyard. And I don't like, the orbs isn't something I need to see. It's really great. I love it when it's part of a group, but I almost feel like I'm taking up resources if I'm asking by myself, right? However, after that chat, I was thinking about Swirly Boy and I had the thought, could I see that again? And in the tree, there was a Swirly Boy. And this is something personally, I didn't have my camera out. It just happened. And for me, it was this validation. Okay, that was real. And I tested it again the following week. I was actually on the phone with Gary earlier,
Mhm.
and I got my camera out and I asked, and it didn't do the loop, but it was basically mimicking a firefly. We have lived here for close to 10 years now. I have never seen a firefly at my house. But you're telling me the two times I asked, I see them. Like,
Right.
anyways.
Well, you can't prove it to the skeptics, but again, it's like you can't prove that feeling that you have and that synchronicity. But if people go out and just try to connect on their own, they will have these amazing experiences themselves, and then they won't be skeptical anymore. But that's amazing to
Yeah.
get that validation. It was remarkable. I had never seen anything like it, and I still haven't seen anything quite like that since, but it was
Yeah.
beautiful.
I know. Um, maybe someday we'll be back there. That's what we got to manifest now. A return trip.
I know, I'm hoping maybe in the next year or 2, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's up for you now?
I am just pushing forward and trying to connect with people as much as I can, making videos and just trying to lead a positive life that's enriching for me. And, I hope that just if I can connect with people and help them see that they can build their own relationship with God in whatever way like enriches their life best, then I'm doing the best job that I could possibly do. Like,
Yep. Yep. People are hungry. Got to give them that spiritual food.
yeah.
And that channel's blowing up, kid.
It's
Way to
getting
go.
more traction than I was expecting, but, it's
Yeah.
consistency. I try to put out a video a week, but I think more realistically, I'll probably be putting out maybe like 2 a month going forward. Maybe
Yeah. Are you able to let go of some of those pressures like that, the pressure of being a content creator and
yeah,
just be you?
I could feel, the last couple months feeling like some pressure and not wanting to like let people down because I know that there are some people that will message me and say, I missed your video this week. Like, I hope everything's okay. I'm like, I'm okay. It's just I'm at the mercy of the orbs, and I'm also trying to not have it just be about orbs. I'm trying to go into other videos about expanded consciousness and strengthening your psi abilities. Um, so, it's taking a little bit of creativity on my part to really expand these topics, to have like a really holistic approach to all of this. But I'm having a great time, and that's the most important thing is that the moment I feel like I'm not having fun, I need to reevaluate. So, I'm still having fun, and I'm really looking forward to seeing like where I end up even a year from now because I've been doing this less than 6 months, and I feel like I've come a long way from even just being like, "Okay, I'm just gonna put out my first crappy video. I don't even care." Like, I'm just gonna do my best and take that first step, and, I have, like, no experience at all with content creation, so, if there's anybody out there that's been wanting to venture into a new area and they just don't know how, the very first thing you do is to just take that step, that first step. Everything else will happen. Yeah,
I can attest to that, right? I feel that same thing. Like no idea what I'm doing here and just feeling called to do something. But yeah, for you, even since getting back from Monroe, right?
that was
The
the last
changes.
for me is, like, talking to you guys and being like and I had known for a while I needed to make a YouTube channel. Not that the orbs were saying, "You have to make a YouTube channel," but when I receive these messages, I get impressions, and my impression was, "What's the easiest way for me to reach as many people as possible to try to help them connect to God?" And I'm like, "Okay, that would be YouTube probably," which
Mhm.
is so scary. Just the idea of, like, putting myself out there, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes I wonder, like, am I even making a difference? But, people send me nice messages, and I've met some people in person that just have, like, the absolute kindest things to say, and it's those positive messages, learning the impact that it's had is just, like it's so rewarding for me, and when I feel down and when I'm critical of myself, or I'm second guessing something, I just try to think of what those people say and be like, it, even if I'm reaching one person, I think that that's enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's it's been amazing to witness, like
Thank
just to see it as a friend, you grow this thing and um yeah, proud of you, kid.
Thanks. And I've had such a great time chatting with you. Anytime you want to do a part two, I feel like we have just so much stuff
No, we
about.
yeah, we literally scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
There's so much more to go over. But yeah, we will leave it to another day. And I think you should start considering doing some conversations on your channel.
So funny that you mentioned that because I was just having a conversation with my husband, I think yesterday, where I was like, I think I need to start doing like some interview type stuff. And here you are saying it. So, you know, that's it.
Just full of good ideas.
Yeah. No, I got to consult you on that stuff. But yeah, I would love to do that. I have a couple people in mind, you being one of them for sure. So, but yeah, if anybody wants to check out my YouTube or Instagram, it's Kory MooFO. That's KoryMoofo. And I just like to get into spirituality, orbs, psi abilities, expanded consciousness, meditations, just all the cool fun stuff that the normies don't like to talk about. But
That's right.
they will be. Soon they won't be able to ignore it, so
What I got here.
aw,
Ooh.
stickers.
Yeah. Oh, and
Hot dog game.
yeah, shout out Scott,
But yeah, it's been so good
who
chatting with you.
I'm gonna be seeing on Thursday.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear
Yeah.
about your upcoming trip. You're gonna have such a great time.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Anyways, great talking with you as always. And yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.